Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Haskachari Shatarine Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivaradhari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Yamuna Tira Vandachari Yamuna Tira Vandachari Jayadha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Yamuna Tira Vandachari Yamuna Tira Vandachari Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees. So thank you very much for allowing me to share something during this beautiful month of Purushottam. I'll start by reading the 20 verses of the yoga of the Supreme Person. So I'll get right into it. The Supreme Lord said, "There is a banyan tree which has its roots upwards and its branches down, and the Vedic hymns are its leaves. One who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas. The branches of this tree extend downward and upward, nourished by the three modes of material nature. The twigs are the objects of the senses, and this tree also has its roots going down, bound to the fruitive actions of human society. The real form of this tree cannot be perceived in this world. No one can understand where it ends, where it begins, or where its foundation is. This banyan tree must be cut with determination by the weapon of detachment. Thereafter, one must seek that situation from which, having gone, one never comes back. One must surrender to that Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whom everything has begun and is extending since time immemorial. One who is free from illusion, false prestige, and false association, who is in understanding of the eternal, done with material lust, freed from the duality of happiness and distress, and who knows how to surrender unto the Supreme Person, attains to that eternal kingdom. That abode of mind is not illumined by the sun or moon, nor by electricity, and anyone who reaches it never comes back to this material world. The living entities in this conditional world are my fragmental parts, and they are eternal. But due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. The living entity in the material world is carried by his different conceptions of life, as the air carries aromas. Thus does he take one kind of body and again quit it to take another. The living entity, thus taking another gross body, obtains a particular type of ear, sense of touch, tongue, and nose, centered around the mind. He thus enjoys a particular set of sense objects. The foolish cannot understand how a living entity can quit his body or what sort of body he enjoys under the spell of the modes of nature. But one whose eyes are trained in knowledge can see. The endeavoring transcendentalist who is situated in self-realization can see all this clearly, but those who are not situated in self-realization, though they may try, cannot see what is taking place. The splendor of the sun, which dissipates the darkness of this universe, is due to me, and the splendor of the moon and the splendor of fire are also from me. I enter into each planet, and by my energy, these stay in orbit. I become the moon and thereby supply the juice of life to all vegetables. I am the fire of digestion in every living body, and I am the air of life, outgoing and incoming, by which I digest the four kinds of foodstuff. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas, I am to be known, and I am the compiler of the Vedanta, and I know Veda as it is. There are two classes of beings, the fallible and the infallible. In the material world, every entity is fallible, and in the spiritual world, every entity is called infallible. Besides these two, there is the greatest living personality, the Lord himself, who has entered into these worlds and is maintaining them. Because I am transcendental, beyond the fallible and the infallible, and greatest, I am celebrated both in the world and in the Vedas as that Supreme Person. Anyone who knows me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead without doubting is to be understood as the knower of everything and he therefore engages himself in full devotional service, O son of Bharata. This is the most confidential part of the Vedic scriptures, O sinless one, disclosed now by me. Anyone who understands this will become wise, and his endeavors will know perfection. Jai Srila Prabhupada. In this chapter, Srila Prabhupada's purports are so full of cutting potency, to cut away the illusion that binds us to ignorance. So yeah, it's kind of a catch-22. But lo and behold, Srila Prabhupada appeared on the scene, and here we are in Vrindavan, practically speaking, enjoying spiritual life here and now. Prabhupada is so kind. We don't have to wait. We can jump right into it, and how lucky we are. So Prabhupada mentions that the reflection of this banyan tree is resting just as in the reservoir of water, the reflection is resting on water. In the same way, the reflection of the banyan tree is resting on desire, material desire. And the way to Srila Prabhupada has immediately taken us out of this syndrome of material desire and flipped us over, because he describes here that in this way they divide up the whole material world. If Brahma is the center of all manifestations, then this material world is a manifestation of the center by 180 degrees, and the other 180 degrees constitute the spiritual world. So in one stroke, Srila Prabhupada has flipped us over from this reflection to the real thing. He describes that the material world expands from the topmost planetary system, which is Brahmaloka. The roots of the material tree, the material manifestation, are extending from Brahmaloka downwards. So by giving us, by transmitting Krishna's message to us, Srila Prabhupada has virtually flipped us into the spiritual world. We're performing spiritual activities, and actually there's no difference from living in one of Srila Prabhupada's temples and following his instructions sincerely than in actually being in the spiritual world, just as Prabhupada describes that there may be many different embassies of different countries. And so long as you're in the embassy, you're not affected by the rules of the particular country that the embassy is situated in. And in the same way, we are fully protected by Srila Prabhupada's instructions and guarantee that if we follow his instructions, and if we take shelter of him and the Guru Parampara and Gaurnitai, Krishna Balaram, Radhesham, and all of their transcendental associates, then we are as good as living in the spiritual world. That's the miracle of Krishna consciousness. While everyone in the outside, in the external materialistic world, they're trying to figure things out in the company of mad scientists and mad politicians, and for the most part, misdirected educationists. They really don't stand a chance in hell of coming to any kind of sane, stable situation, generation after generation. They commit the same mistakes and suffer the same tragic consequences. So this is the incredible fortune just waiting to be disseminated all over the planet, all over the universe. The Lord and his pure devotees are busy preaching the same message. The same message. If we can imagine, even I think it's mentioned 2 million years or 200 million years, when Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita to Vivishwan, that very same message, no change, no addition, no subtraction, that infallible nature of Krishna is expanded in all of his creation. And the living entity is totally dependent on this infallible protection of the Lord, just as Prabhupada mentions in a purport, I think text 13 of the same chapter, the Yoga of the Supreme Person. Similarly, it is due to the Supreme Personality of Godhead that the moon nourishes all vegetables. Due to the moon's influence, the vegetables become delicious. Without the moonshine, the vegetables can neither grow nor taste succulent. Human society is working, living comfortably, and enjoying food due to the supply from the Supreme Lord. Otherwise, mankind could not survive. The word rasatmika is very significant. Everything becomes palatable by the agency of the Supreme Lord through the influence of the moon. And then he goes on to say in text 14, in the purport, Well, the text is, I am the fire of digestion in which every living body, and I am the air of life, outgoing and incoming, by which I digest the 4 kinds of foodstuffs. Prabhupada's purport, according to Ayurvedic Shastra, we understand fire is not blazing, there is no hunger, and when fire is in order, we become hungry. Sometimes when the fire is not going nicely, treatment is required. In any case,
Hare Krishna, you need to unmute.
sorry.
That's okay. Thank you. When you go
Okay.
off, it mutes itself.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, yeah, that we're totally in every stage of existence, we're totally dependent on our supreme friend, Sri Krishna. And what better situation could anyone ask for? So that kind of points at the idiocy of materialistic or the material proposition that we can create a successful society without God. We can't even breathe. We can't even digest foodstuffs. We can do nothing without Krishna's sanction. That's the actual situation. So just see the absurdity of the materialistic conception. It's just so totally absurd that it behooves us to really go forward and fight, each and every one of us, to really get out there or get in here in preparation, whatever the situation is. But just fight within and without to eradicate this false conception that anything is possible without that anything, good or bad, is let alone transcendental. That anything is possible without Krishna's sanction, without Krishna's help. That beautiful verse, Sarvasya Chaham Hrivisani Vishto Matasmritir Jnana Apohanancha Vidaischa Sarvai Aham Eva Vedyo Vedanta Krit Vedavit Eva Chaham. I am seated in everyone's heart, and for me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. So again, whatever knowledge, ability, every activity requires knowledge, jnana, bala, uh, strength, and kriya. So that is all supplied by Krishna. And again, the more we become attached to Krishna by chanting his holy names, the more we become purified by chanting his holy names and then attached to him. The more these natural qualities that are within us become activated and mobilized so that we can experience the joy and dynamism of a spiritual life, and we can share it without any doubt or fear or feeling that we have to compromise or um, uh, you know, present gimmicks or whatever to attract people. Krishna consciousness in itself is all attractive because it generates all auspiciousness. The more we practice it sincerely, the more so much auspiciousness is generated. We're not dependent on business endeavors or material calculation for sharing Krishna consciousness. It's a vital force above any mundane process. So all we need to do is follow to the T the instructions given by the pure devotee. For example, when Prabhupada was physically present, and even in his lectures we can still hear, he always discouraged devotees from reading books other than what he had given us. Nowadays it's kind of become the fashion to read as many other books to get some more information or this or that. But ultimately everything depends on Divya Gyan. Everything depends on the relationship between the guru and the disciple. Yashya prasadhat bhagavat prasadha, yashya prasadhat nakati katopi. It's not an academic or mechanical process. It's not a question of the soul connection, the connection of the soul. So Sorry, it seems like, are we okay?
Yes, you're okay this time.
Okay.
Carry on. Thank you.
So, yeah, Prabhupada, Krishna, they expect Daivi Varnashram from us, where every segment in society is fully enlightened and fully enlivened in Krishna consciousness. So this is very important. We're not workers or employees. We're Gopi Bhartu Padakamalayor Das Dasi Anudasi Anudasi or Das Anudas Anudas. All of us, from regardless of what service we're performing, whether it's a gardener or a sweeper or a cook or a sannyasi or a grihastha, spiritually we're all called upon to be of the same fiber, and that's a spiritual society, and that is the aim. That was the goal. That was the reason that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta formed the Gaudiya Math, and that Srila Prabhupada formed ISKCON, and they have been successful. And we need to increase the success. We need to build on the success. Everything's extremely hopeful, especially as you were mentioning, Ravanga Prabhu, that this coronavirus has really accelerated Lord Chaitanya's mission in so many ways. Bhumi Mata is planes crashing down on her to land all over. Haribo. So it's interesting. Prabhupada mentions in a purport here that it is not simply to hear like hogs is not sufficient. He makes that statement that simply to hear like hogs is not sufficient. So that's quite a strong statement. I was trying to think, well, what does that mean? And it comes to mind that that when we hear, Prabhupada has given a qualification to hearing, that there has to be submissive oral receptions, submissive oral reception. So if it seems that materialistic people, they'll go to a temple or a church or a mosque, and they'll just hear the scripture, and then they'll go back home or go back to work and just live the way they've always been living, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, without a thought of actually changing their lifestyle. They'll just continue with their bad habits. So it seems that Prabhupada is very strongly condemning that kind of hearing, that when we hear, we should be very careful that it actually penetrates our heart, and that our heart changes. And that can occur when we pay careful attention to chanting our japa. We chant japa very attentively, and realizing that we're addressing people, we're addressing Krishna, we're addressing Srimati Radharani, we're addressing Lord Balaram in person, and we're begging for their mercy. We're begging them to cleanse us and make us fit to render some service. And then gradually, by constant hearing and chanting, we'll find that our whole existence becomes, as Prabhupada mentioned in an early purport, well, actually I mentioned that Prabhupada has flipped us over, or at least given us the option of flipping over from material darkness to spiritual life, full of variety in relationships. Again, Prabhupada said that everything was in his books. So actually, if we could begin to do justice to the volumes of books that Srila Prabhupada has given us, and actually, it would be so wonderful if we could form reading clubs and spend a good portion of the day just reading together and discussing, especially in Vrindavan, and churning the ocean of nectar. How wonderful it would be, because what Prabhupada has put in his books, there's just so much potency and knowledge there, that if we could imbibe it to a greater degree, we would be so much more, at least speaking for myself, I do crave that. I would be so much more appreciative and enlivened in Krishna consciousness. So I'll read the last purport, text and purport, which is very beautiful. And then, I think we've already gone. No, we've got till 6:30. This most confidential part of the Vedic scriptures, O sinless, this is the most confidential part of the Vedic scriptures, O sinless one, and it is disclosed now by me. Whoever understands this will become wise, and his endeavors will know perfection. Purport: the Lord clearly explains here that this is the substance of all revealed scriptures. And one should understand this as it is given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, one will become intelligent and perfect in transcendental knowledge. In other words, by understanding this philosophy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and engaging in his transcendental service, everyone can become freed from all contaminations of the modes of material nature. Devotional service is a process of spiritual understanding. Wherever devotional service exists, the material contamination cannot coexist. Devotional service to the Lord and the Lord himself are one and the same because they are spiritual, the internal energy of the Supreme Lord. The Lord is said to be the sun, and ignorance is called darkness. Where the sun is present, there is no question of darkness. Therefore, whenever devotional service is present, under the proper guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, there is no question of ignorance. Everyone must take to this consciousness of Krishna and engage in devotional service to become intelligent and purified. Unless one comes to this position of understanding Krishna and engages in devotional service, however intelligent he may be in the estimation of some common man, he is not perfectly intelligent. The word anaga, by which Arjuna is addressed, is significant. Anaga, O sinless one, means that unless one is freed from all sinful reactions, it is very difficult to understand Krishna. One has to become free from all contamination, all sinful activities. Then he can understand. The devotional service is so pure and potent that once one is engaged in devotional service, he automatically comes to the stage of sinlessness. While performing devotional service in the association of pure devotees in full Krishna consciousness, there are certain things which require to be vanquished altogether. The most important thing one has to surmount is weakness of the heart. The first fall down is caused by the desire to lord it over material nature. Thus, one gives up the transcendental loving service of the Supreme Lord. The second weakness of the heart is that one increases the propensity of lording it over material nature. He becomes attached to matter and the possession of matter. The problems of material existence are due to these weaknesses of the heart. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to the 15th chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of Purushottam Yoga, the yoga of the Supreme Person. So also in Srimad Bhagavatam, Jad Bharat is preaching to Maharaj Rahugana about the forest of material existence, and he's pointing out the dangers in a very, very graphic way, how the householder will go out and he will experience so much difficulty trying to acquire money, and then someone wants to steal it, or his family members are not satisfied with what he brings home. So many difficulties that are the hallmark of material life. Material life is just so full of misery and difficulty, and yet because people in general, and to extent even people like myself, because we don't have information of, or enough information of, or even experience of something better, then we just kind of fall back into, or we stay in a pattern of cause and effect that just perpetuates a miserable situation. So in all circumstances, the association of sadhus, saints, and specifically the pure devotee of Krishna is very, very much needed in order to get leverage out of this dull materialistic life. And we need to be very vigilant, because as Prabhupada warns us, spiritual life is like a razor's edge, and Maya is very cunning, as we all know. She can, perhaps some know more than others, some experience Maya's cunningness more than others. Some devotees are very fortunate; they have very pure and fixed consciousness and good sadhana and a very favorable disposition towards devotees and spiritual life. And so we need to pray for their association and try to follow in their footsteps. Try to learn from them how to increase our faith and dedication, and how to develop a taste for chanting the holy names, and a total distaste for anything that is not pleasing to Krishna. So this can be accelerated by each devotee taking great care in their sadhana, that we're not just doing it for ourselves, we're doing it to please Krishna, obviously, and by watering the root, then everyone all over existence, but especially close to home, everyone will be affected by our personal endeavor. So especially during this holy month of Purushottam, which frankly I'd never heard of when I was living in the West as a devotee. I'd never heard of Purushottam Mass till I came to Vrindavan. I mean, I heard about it in Vrindavan maybe 16 years ago for the first time, because I don't recall Srila Prabhupada ever mentioning Purushottam Mass, but perhaps the senior devotees, they remember. I haven't had a chance to look it up on database, but it's certainly a great opportunity to increase our chanting, and it's very encouraging to see and hear how different devotees are have taken different vows for the month. So and then we come into Kartik. So it just seems that this year, 2020, has been a very amazing year, and the next 2 months certainly we can add to the amazing nature of this year by focusing on blissful ways to please Prabhupada and Krishna and the devotees, and just remember our real nature of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. For me, it's very easy to forget that by nature I'm blissful by nature. Sometimes you walk around, you look around, and everyone's generally looking a little bored or anxious, but as soon as two devotees come together, they'll smile and start talking about Krishna. So this we need to spread, and especially in this month we can try to increase our sadhana and our preaching, and I hope everyone has a great month. There's time for questions or comments, additions. I'm sure there could be a lot of additions. Thank you very much for your kindness and patience. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai. Thank you. Has anybody got any questions or any comments or anything to add? I'll just add one thing. I did search on database about Purushottam, and the word is not mentioned. And Shrutakirti in his class, he said that he never heard of Purushottam when he was with Prabhupada. The only thing he knew, there was a devotee called Purushottam. He said Prabhupada never mentioned Purushottam at all.
Well, it's a great excuse to increase chanting and sadhana and all good things. So.
Yeah, generally we're taking guidance from Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who did write about Purushottam, and he explained 3 levels of devotees. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur explained that for all these things that people talk about, all these extra things you should do, are for people who are not yet doing devotional service. Once you have taken shelter of a guru, then your guru is your guide, and you should only follow your guru's instructions. And for the completely renounced devotees who are engaged 100% in Hari Bhajan, then they don't need to change anything because they're already doing everything.
Right, we can just increase, that's it.
So we know what pleases Srila Prabhupada. We increase chanting, we increase preaching, and
go
reading
deeper and
Bhagavad.
increase.
Yeah, and reading his books.
Yeah. Well,
Hare Krishna.
Oh, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Take
Thank you very
care.
much. Thank you
Take
very
care.
much.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you
Jai
for the wonderful darshan.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hari Hari Bo. Hari Hari Bo.